Hi, I'm Park Guide Jason Howell. I'm wearing a ranger uniform, green pants, green jacket, tan hat. Behind me is Moores Creek. I have some woods behind me as well. And we are actually out here for our virtual anniversary event. And I'm taking you on a tour of the battlefield today. It's a nice, cool, crisp day. And so the Loyalists have gathered and mainly Highland Scots up at a place called Cross Creek. They have been tasked by the Royal Governor Josiah Martin to come to the coast to link up with British forces, regular British forces coming by sea. Them and 200 backwoodsmen called regulators. They've been on the march for about a week or a week and a half, and they'll encounter on February the 24th, 25th, a group of patriots under the command of Richard Caswell, 18 miles to the north of this position, at a place called Corbett's Ferry. And the Loyalists, they find a way across the Black River at Corbett's Ferry. Besides the ferry crossing, they actually get around the Patriots and force them back on the Moores Creek Bridge. About 800 Patriots under the command of Richard Caswell will arrive here on this spot in February 26th and encounter a command of Patriots under Alexander Lillington, about 200 men, giving the Patriots an effective fighting force of around 1,000. Here on this side of the bridge, on the west bank, they set up camp. On the east bank, on the opposite side of the bridge from where we're at now, they'll start constructing large earthworks. Later that afternoon, roughly around about 6 p.m., the Loyalists will send out a courier, and the courier will bring a letter to Richard Caswell, the commander in charge of the Patriots, for the Patriots, of course, to surrender to the Loyalists. While Caswell is deliberating, this Loyalist courier by the name of James Hepburn, he's sitting back and he's on this side, he's on the west bank, and he's noticing that there's 1,000 men here, and they're all camped on the west bank. This is very important for the Loyalists when they make their decision to march out. Now, Hepburn will not see what's going on the east bank. He does not see the earthworks that had been built the previous day. When he reports back to the Loyalists after Caswell denies the surrender, he reports back and he tells them, hey, there's 1,000 men on the west bank of Moores Creek. They have their back to the water. If somehow they can cut off the bridge access, they can capture the Patriots. And that's the plan. About 1 a.m. on the 27th of February 1776, these Loyalists begin a 6-mile march to this position. As they are coming down here, however, the Patriots will abandon this side of the creek and they will go to the east side into the earthworks they built the previous day. Unbeknownst to the Loyalists, as they advance up, the Patriots have left the campfires burning. They've actually left tents up on this side, on the west bank, and it almost seems as though they did it to deceive the Loyalists. And most historians will agree that that is the case. The Loyalists, when they get here, like I said, they had a plan. They'll send a group of men behind the Patriot encampment to the bridge, while two lines of men will actually rush the front of the Patriot encampment, hoping to startle the Patriots and send them to the bridge. When they actually enter the Patriot encampment here on this side, the Loyalists will find that the Patriots have, in fact, abandoned this position. About the time they get inside the encampment or inside this area, they actually hear musket fire over towards the bridge. They see flashes of musket fire, and the Loyalist commander will order the Loyalists inside the Patriot encampment on the west bank to the bridge to see what's going on. We're at the site of the old bridge. We have here a reconstructed wooden bridge built by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1999. Behind that, we have the causeway leading to the bridge in a wooded area. You can see the creek off to the side here. So the Loyalists, the group that had swung around behind the Patriot encampment, They come up here to this site, and they're the ones who actually fire the first shots. They actually see Patriot sentries on this other side of the bridge here. They shoot at them. That alerts, of course, as I already said, the Loyalists that were in the main encampment. They come rushing up. Lieutenant Colonel McLeod will come up to the man in charge at the bridge, which is Captain Campbell. And Lieutenant Colonel McLeod asks, "Hey, what's going on?" He informs them, "Hey, we saw some sentries. We fired on them. They run off in the darkness." Keep in mind, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning at this point. You really can't see a whole lot. So they run off in the darkness behind us up this causeway. Didn't really look like there was very many people here. Lieutenant Colonel McLeod decides, "Hey, we've got to cross over and hopefully capture, maybe we've wounded some of these Patriots. We'll cross over, go up the causeway here, capture some men, figure out what's going on, find out where these Patriots have gone." But there's a problem. Captain Campbell will inform Lieutenant Colonel McLeod that the bridge itself has been partially dismantled. The boards here behind me, they've been taken up, a portion of them, and leaving only the girders, the beams going across. They've been greased with soft soap and tallow, making it very difficult to cross over. The Loyalists will take out their broadswords and begin to cross this bridge, one behind the other, across the beams, until they get roughly maybe 50 men on the other side. We don't know for sure. There's some arguments and debates as to how many men actually cross over this bridge. Lieutenant Colonel McLeod will pull out his broadsword and exclaim, "King George," and broadswords, and they'll charge off in the darkness behind me here up this causeway and try to capture these Patriots, or what they think are just a few Patriots, just up the causeway behind me. Behind me, you'll see the earthworks along with the cannon over my right shoulder. So the Loyalists have advanced up the causeway, and they've gotten within about 30 paces of the earthworks. It's still fairly dark, but at this point they may be able to start making out shapes. This ridge above me here, the Patriots' earthworks will open up with cannon fire and musket fire. You got a lot of lead coming down range all at once. We know this because the Loyalist commander, when he was found the next morning, he was shot 9 times with 75 caliber rounds, and his body was riddled with buckshot. The battle itself was over very quickly. Maybe the initial charge probably only lasted a few minutes. The Loyalists are not going to give up just yet. They'll fall back on the bridge and they'll regroup and try to come across the bridge again. They actually try this 3 times after the initial charge. They eventually decide to give up. Their reasoning for giving up, trying to come across this bridge and trying to take the Patriot position, is because of the cannons. And we'll go up and we'll talk a little bit now about the Patriot position, what they have up there, and the artillery or the cannons that the Patriots have. Okay, we're now inside the Patriot Earthworks. I'm standing beside a British 2-pound cannon. Over my left shoulder is a 1/2-pound swivel gun. You can see portions of the earthworks. Behind me we have some trees. So inside the Patriot Earthworks that morning, of course, the Patriots begin firing on the Loyalists. They're firing with muskets, but they also have artillery pieces. And according to the Loyalists, the artillery pieces of the cannons were the decided advantage here at the Battle of Moores Creek that would prevent the Loyalists from actually taking these earthworks. Here I have a British 2-pounder, and they're actually going to be using in this gun something called canister shot. Basically, if you can think of a coffee can, it's filled with these smaller rounds, these smaller musket balls, if you will, shoved down the end of this barrel. And when it comes out, instead of having a solid cannonball, we have several smaller cannonballs. Now this cannon here, the swivel gun behind me. They're acting just like a shotgun. At least 30 Loyalists are found dead the next morning. Another 20 or so are wounded. The Patriots do not go unscathed. We have 2 Patriots wounded. A man by the name of James Foy is wounded here. We're not exactly for sure where he's wounded, but we do know that it's James Foy, who owns Poplar Grove Plantation just above Wilmington. The other man, Private John Grady, who is shot here, he will ultimately succumb to his wounds. He'll die from the wounds sustained here, becoming the first Patriot to die for North Carolina during the American Revolution. So we're here now at the Grady Monument. Today, when we hear the greatest generation, we think of World War II veterans for the most of us. In the 1830s, there were people coming out here to this site and actually commemorating the battle. The veterans that fought here, they were bringing their families out, grandpas and great grandpas. They were bringing their sons and their daughters and their grandsons, granddaughters out here, and they were talking about what happened here on this site. By the 1850s, not all of those men were gone, and the descendants, the grandsons, granddaughters, they were looking for ways to commemorate their family members, and to them, the greatest generation was the Revolutionary War vets. And they decided to place a monument here on this site in 1857. This monument was built in Philadelphia, brought down our eastern seaboard up the Cape Fear River, and placed here on this site in 1857 in honor of Private John Grady. They found Grady's remains here on the battlefield and placed them in a metal box, and then reburied him here under this monument in honor of him. Now, what happened to John Grady? We're not 100% certain. We do know that he was a young man who didn't have very much military experience. In fact, Caswell said that he regretted maybe even bringing him along, because it is stated that he was found, he had actually tried to get a better shot at the Loyalist, and when he tried to get a better shot at the Loyalist, it's stated that he possibly crawled on top of the earthworks and then was actually shot. So this monument was placed here in honor of Private John Grady in 1857. If you notice on this side, you'll see Lillington's name. On the opposite side of the monument, you will see Caswell's. That's both men who were in charge here at the Battle of Moores Creek, Lillington and Caswell. On the front of the monument, you have Grady's name inscribed. All right, we're here at the Loyalist Monument. I have the Loyalist Monument here to my left. Behind me, we have some trees. So after the Battle of Moores Creek Bridge, after a quick victory, the Patriots will decide to vote on independence April 12th, 1776. And with that, North Carolina will become the first American colony to do so. Now, this Loyalist Monument was probably one of the first ever monuments dedicated to Loyalists. And the reason why we have this monument here on the battlefield, if it were not for the Loyalists marching out mid-February, heading to Moores Creek Bridge and fighting a quick, very bloody battle for the Loyalists, and without this Patriot victory becoming the first decisive Patriot victory of the American Revolution, it's quite possible that the Patriots here in North Carolina would not have decided to vote for independence on April 12th, 1776. And without April 12th, 1776, some historians have gone as far as to say that we possibly would have never had a July 4th. So that will conclude our tour of the Moores Creek battlefield. If you guys don't remember anything else about our quick tour here this morning, remember that this is the first decisive victory of the American Revolution. This victory will allow North Carolina to seek out and vote on independence. North Carolina will be the first American colony to do so. Thank you, and hope to see you again soon.